I'm Martha Wilson, and I turned 65 this spring. I've been living in Maple Grove, a small town in Ohio, for over 40 years. My husband George passed away 10 years ago, and since then, my only daughter Jennifer and my granddaughter Emily have been the light of my life. Jennifer was 27 years old. She worked as a teacher at the local elementary school. Her smile was as bright as the sun, warmly illuminating those around her. Emily is 5 years old. She has big blue eyes just like Jennifer and a curious personality. Last month, Jennifer fell ill. At first, we thought it was just a cold. But day by day, her symptoms worsened. Loss of appetite, severe abdominal pain, and unexplained fever. Neither the town clinic nor the big hospital could figure out the cause. And last Thursday, my beloved daughter breathed her last. It was too sudden, too young a death. The doctors say it was an acute illness of unknown cause, but a big question remains in my heart. Why so suddenly? Why my sweet daughter? As I prepare for the funeral, my heart feels crushed with sadness. But I have to be strong for Emily. She still needs me. St. Mary's Church. The place where Jennifer was baptized, attended Sunday school, and had her wedding. Today it became the place for her final journey. The church is decorated with white flowers, and a photo of Jennifer's smiling face is placed in front of the altar. As mourners in black attire quietly take their seats, I held Emily's small hand tightly. She doesn't seem to fully understand yet that Mommy won't be coming back forever. "Grandma, when will Mommy wake up?" Emily asks in a small voice. I'm at a loss for words and can only hold Emily close. Pastor Brown solemnly begins the service. He speaks about Jennifer's life, her love, and the impact she had on many people. Sobs can be heard from among the mourners. As the service reaches its midpoint, Emily suddenly leans forward. Her eyes seem to be looking at something far away. "Grandma," Emily whispers. "Mommy's here." I look back at my granddaughter in surprise. "Emily, what did you say?" "Mommy's over there," Emily points towards the altar. "Mommy's talking to me." My heart starts pounding like a drum. Emily had always been a bit different. Sometimes she would say she could see things that others couldn't. But could it be? "Mommy's saying," Emily continues, to look at her tummy. I caught my breath. Jennifer's tummy. What could be there? "Emily, how does Mommy look?" I asked with a trembling voice. "Mommy looks sad," Emily answers. "But she's trying to tell us something important." At that moment, the pastor's voice echoed, bringing us back to reality. But Emily's words kept ringing in my head. Jennifer's tummy, what could be there? As the funeral ended and the mourners started to leave, my mind was buzzing with Emily's words. "Mommy says to look at her tummy," those words keep echoing in my head. "Mrs. Wilson, are you all right?" Jim Foster from the funeral home gently called out to me. He's been an acquaintance for 30 years, seeing off many of the town's people on their final journey. "Jim, I have a request," I said with determination. Could you could you let me see Jennifer one more time? Jim looked a bit surprised but quickly showed understanding. Of course. But are you prepared? It might be a difficult experience. I nodded. I'm ready. For Emily's sake, and for Jennifer's. Led by Jim, we entered a quiet room. There lay Jennifer's body, covered with a white cloth. As Jim carefully removed the cloth, Jennifer's face appeared. A peaceful expression, as if she were just sleeping. Jim, could you show me her stomach area too? I asked with a trembling voice. Jim silently complied and exposed Jennifer's abdomen. There, something unusual caught my eye. On the right side of her abdomen was a large bruise of an unnatural shape. Purple-black spots spread out like some kind of mark. This is... I was at a loss for words. Mrs. Wilson, this... Jim also seemed confused, searching for words. Honestly, I've never seen a bruise like this before. In my head, various questions were swirling. What is this bruise? How long has it been there? Why didn't anyone notice? And most importantly, is this related to Jennifer's death? Jim, could you take a picture of this? I said, steeling my resolve. Jim hesitated a little but, seeing my serious expression, quietly nodded. While he carefully took photos with his cell phone, I held Jennifer's cold hand. I'm sorry, Jennifer. But I need to know the truth. For you, and for Emily. Before leaving the room, I gently kissed Jennifer's cheek one last time. Rest in peace. Mom will uncover the truth. A few days after the funeral, I started sorting through Jennifer's belongings. Every time I enter her room, I feel a tightness in my chest. It's as if her scent still lingers in the room. As I was packing clothes and mementos into boxes one by one, I found a small box hidden behind the bookshelf. When I opened it, inside was Jennifer's diary. The cover reads, "My secret only." I hesitated whether I should open the diary, but I told myself it was necessary to know the truth. When I opened the first page, a world I had never imagined unfolded before me. He hit me again today. But I can't tell anyone. I have to endure for Emily's sake. My stomach still hurts from being kicked. But I can't go to the hospital. I'm afraid of being questioned. I feel like he's putting something in my food. But I have no proof. Maybe I'm just being paranoid. With each line I read, my heart filled with pain and anger. Jennifer had been abused by her husband, Robert, for years. And she couldn't ask anyone for help. After finishing the diary, I contacted Sarah, Jennifer's best friend. She might know something. Aunt Martha. Sarah hesitated on the phone before starting to speak. Actually, Jennifer had confided in me. But she made me promise not to tell anyone. Sarah's testimony corroborated the contents of the diary. Robert's violence, mental abuse, and recently, suspicious behavior regarding food. Recently, Jennifer said that the food tastes strange, Sarah said tearfully. But Robert was right there, so I couldn't ask for details. Hearing this, something clicked in my mind. The unnatural bruise, the unexplained illness, and the change in food taste, everything seemed to point to one terrible truth. "Sarah, thank you," I said, taking a deep breath. "Don't blame yourself for not being able to help Jennifer. Now is the time to reveal the truth." After hanging up the phone, I headed to Emily's room with a determined feeling. She was sitting on the floor, playing with her dolls. "Emily," I gently called out. "Grandma needs to do something important for Mommy. Will you help?" Emily looked up at me with big eyes and quietly nodded. "Yes, Grandma. If it's for Mommy." At that moment, I was desperate to hold back my tears. Jennifer's anguish, Emily's innocence, and the terrible truth that needed to be uncovered. It all weighs heavily on my shoulders. But there's no turning back. For my daughter's sake, and for my granddaughter's future, I chose the path of pursuing the truth. With Jennifer's diary and her friend's testimony in hand, I decided to consult with the local police. At first, the detective was skeptical, but when I showed him the evidence, he listened earnestly. "Mrs. Wilson, this is a serious accusation," Detective Johnson said with a furrowed brow. "We'll need to conduct a thorough investigation, but can we count on your cooperation?" I agreed without hesitation. From that day on, my days were spent liaising with the police and gathering evidence. Jennifer's medical records, her daily items, and even samples of her hair became subjects of investigation. Emily spent more time at my house, her grandmother's, while Robert remained alone at home. He seemed to be immersing himself in work after his wife's death. About a week into the investigation, I received a call from Detective Johnson. "Mrs. Wilson, we've made an important discovery." His voice was filled with tension. Traces of arsenic were detected in Jennifer's hair. At those words, all strength left my body. Arsenic. Poison. My beloved daughter had been slowly poisoned. "This is..." I stammered. "Yes, it's evidence of long-term poison administration," Detective Johnson continued quietly. "Furthermore, there's a report of arsenic compounds missing from the chemical storage at Robert Wilson's workplace. Robert worked for a chemical company. He had easy access to poisons." "Why?" I asked, holding back tears. "Why would he do such a thing?" "We don't fully understand the motive yet," Detective Johnson chose his words carefully. "But we've discovered that a high-value life insurance policy was taken out on Jennifer in Robert Wilson's name." At that moment, something broke inside me. To kill his own wife, Emily's mother, in such a cruel way for money. "Robert is..." I asked with a shaking voice. "Currently under interrogation," Detective Johnson answered. "We plan to request an arrest warrant as soon as we have sufficient evidence." After hanging up the phone, I just sat there for a long time. Sadness, anger, and regret washed over me. If only I had noticed earlier, could I have saved Jennifer? Such thoughts tormented me. However, there's still work to be done. For Emily's sake, and for Jennifer's justice, I must face this truth. As the police investigation progressed, I started thinking more about Emily's mysterious ability. That day at the funeral when Emily said she saw Jennifer. And the words about looking at her stomach. It might not have been just a child's imagination. Emily, one day I gently spoke to my granddaughter. Can you tell me more about Mommy? Emily looked up at me with her big eyes, thought for a moment, and then started speaking. Mommy comes sometimes at night, she said in a quiet voice. She looks sad. But she's trying to tell us something important. What kind of things? I asked, holding my breath. About Mommy's ring, Emily continued. The shiny ring. But she says it's not there now. I leaned forward involuntarily. Jennifer's wedding ring. Indeed, she wasn't wearing it when she passed away. Emily, did Mommy say where the ring is? Emily thought for a moment. Under the big tree in the garden. I think. The moment I heard those words, my heart started racing. There's a big oak tree in the backyard of Jennifer's house. Could it be? That night, I contacted Detective Johnson. I relayed Emily's words and asked for permission to search the garden. Honestly, believing a child's words is. Detective Johnson hesitated but ultimately agreed. The next day, under police supervision, we dug at the base of the oak tree. And from the earth, a small box emerged. When we opened the box, inside was Jennifer's wedding ring. And surprisingly, there was also a note written in Robert's handwriting. The perfect crime. No one will notice. At that moment, we had obtained decisive evidence. After discovering the wedding ring and note thanks to Emily's mysterious ability, I started paying even more attention to Emily's words. Every night before bed, I set aside time to talk quietly with Emily. Emily, did Mommy say anything today? I gently ask. Emily answers with a serious expression. Mommy said to look inside the big vase in the kitchen. I caught my breath. That vase was a wedding gift Jennifer had received. The next morning, under police supervision, we examined the vase. Hidden at the bottom was a small plastic bag. It contained a white powder. Later tests revealed that the powder was an arsenic compound. On another day, Emily said this, Mommy says there's a secret in Daddy's computer. Based on this information, the police conducted a detailed investigation of Robert's computer. There, they found search history related to the effects of poisons and methods of administration. Each of Emily's words led to important evidence. By believing in her ability and acting cautiously, we were getting closer to the truth. Sometimes, Emily's words didn't directly lead to evidence. There were childlike imaginations mixed in, like, Mommy was flying in the sky, or, she was talking to the stars. However, I continued to listen carefully, not to miss the fragments of truth within them. Emily's ability is not just a child's imagination. It's a special connection with her deceased mother. By believing in and respecting it, we were proceeding on the path to justice. Based on the evidence gathered with Emily's help, the police initiated a more formal investigation. A special investigation team was formed, centered around Detective Johnson. Mrs. Wilson, thank you for providing such valuable information, Detective Johnson said with a serious expression. We'll conduct a more detailed investigation based on this evidence. The police began to examine Jennifer's medical records from the hospital she had been visiting in detail. In this process, the photo of the abdominal bruise played a crucial role. Dr. Smith, a toxicology specialist from the local general hospital, agreed to cooperate with the investigation. The shape and color of this bruise are typical symptoms of chronic arsenic poisoning, he pointed out. Furthermore, a detailed analysis of Jennifer's hair samples clearly showed arsenic accumulation over the past several months. This is not accidental poisoning. It can only be explained by planned administration, Dr. Smith asserted. The police extended their investigation to the chemical company where Robert worked. With the company's cooperation, they thoroughly investigated inventory records of chemicals and access logs. As a result, it was discovered that Robert had been accessing the chemical storage containing arsenic compounds with unusual frequency. Considering all this evidence, the possibility of planned poisoning by Robert Wilson is extremely high, Detective Johnson stated in the interim investigation report. Every time I heard about the progress of these investigations, sadness and anger welled up inside me. At the same time, I felt a sense of relief that we were getting closer to the truth. Jennifer, it's almost time, I whispered in my heart. The truth about what was done to you is about to come to light. Once sufficient evidence was gathered, the police finally moved to arrest Robert Wilson. When I saw him being arrested in front of his house as he was about to leave for work on the news, complex emotions swirled within me. After the arrest, Robert initially denied all charges. However, faced with the police's persistent questioning and overwhelming evidence, he gradually began to break down. When the trial began, the whole town was in an uproar. Many media outlets flocked to cover the shocking incident that occurred in this small town. The prosecution presented evidence of chronic arsenic poisoning, records of Robert's unnatural behavior, and the decisive evidence of the note, one after another. The defense tried to cast doubt on the credibility of the evidence, but their arguments were overturned by expert testimony. At the climax of the trial, Robert finally admitted his guilt. According to his confession, he was burdened with enormous debt and was aiming for a quick reversal of fortune with Jennifer's life insurance money. Ultimately, Robert was sentenced to life imprisonment for first-degree murder. When the verdict was announced, a murmur arose from the people gathered in the courtroom. While harboring complex feelings, I felt that finally, my daughter's soul could rest in peace. After the trial ended and the truth came to light, life for Emily and me changed dramatically. Many people extended their sympathy and support to us. The church community, in particular, became a powerful source of support. After Sunday Mass, many people would approach us, bringing meals or helping to take care of Emily. Martha, thank you for your courage, Mary, the leader of the church women's group, said to me. Your actions have made our town safer. At Emily's school too, teachers and other parents showed special consideration. The school counselor meets regularly with Emily, working to care for her emotional well-being. On the other hand, This incident has prompted the entire town to turn its attention to the issues of domestic violence and abuse. Related workshops and support groups have been launched at the local community center. We have learned a lot from Mrs. Wilson and little Emily's experience, the mayor stated at a press conference. From now on, we will work as a whole community to prevent such tragedies from happening again. Emily is gradually regaining her brightness. Her words about seeing mommy have decreased, but occasionally, she looks up at the sky and smiles. I myself have found a new mission while dealing with my grief. I've started volunteering with a local support group for domestic violence victims, trying to use my experience to help those who are suffering. Jennifer is no longer here. But her presence lives on in us and in this town. Her tragic fate has changed the lives of many people and has become a step towards a better society. A year has passed since then. Emily has started elementary school and is slowly getting used to her new life. The bond between us two has grown even stronger through this ordeal. On the anniversary of Jennifer's death, Emily and I visit her grave together. We offer flowers and quietly speak to her. Jennifer, your courage continues to live in the hearts of many people. We have established a fund in Jennifer's name. The Jennifer Memorial Fund works to support domestic violence victims and educate children about preventing abuse. Emily is also participating in activities in her own way. She started a kindness club at school, spreading the importance of compassion with her friends. Grandma, do you think Mommy is watching us? Emily asked one day. Yes, I'm sure she is, I answered gently. And she must be very proud. This journey that began with a sad event has now become a beacon of hope. Jennifer's memory lives on through our activities, illuminating the lives of many people. From now on, I want to continue sowing seeds of love and compassion together with Emily. That should be the best gift for Jennifer.